Egypt and Cyprus have reaffirmed their desire to preserve Syria's unity and advance an inclusive political process. That came as Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Cyprus President Nikos Christodoulidis held a phone call where they addressed regional issues. President el-Sisi called for a swift Gaza ceasefire, a detainee exchange and unrestricted humanitarian aid. President Christodoulidis praised Egypt's stabilizing efforts to prevent further Middle East escalation. The UN Special Envoy for Syria, Geir Pedersen, said that concrete movement on an inclusive political transition in Syria will be key in ensuring the country gets the economic support it needs. Pedersen added that there is a clear international willingness to engage. He highlighted that the needs are immense and could only be addressed with broad support, including a smooth end to sanctions, appropriate action on designations, and full reconstruction. The UN Under-Secretary-General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator Tom Fletcher has emphasized Syria's dire humanitarian crisis, citing 17 million people who need aid and 1 million who have been displaced in the past few weeks. Fletcher added that essential services, schools and humanitarian operations were disrupted and worsened by closed borders. He added that efforts to stabilize conditions include resumed aid, coordination improvements and collaboration across conflict lines. The UN has called on the international community to seize the opportunity to aid Syria's recovery. The head of a UN investigative body has written to Syria's new authorities to express its willingness to travel to Syria to secure evidence that could implicate top officials of the former government. The head of the International Impartial and Independent Mechanism said its first priority would be to scoop the extent of the issue, evaluated the extent of its access and potential evidence, and then see how they could be best assisting in preserving that.
With hope is a stated awareness from the transitional authorities and from Syrian civil society.
Moving on to Syria, the head of Syria's transitional government, Mohammed al-Bashir, has announced plans to restructure the Ministry of Defense and called for the international community to lift sanctions and release frozen funds. Al-Bashir emphasized the government's focus on maintaining services, security and stability, while expressing disappointment over international neglect. He also stressed the need for accountability regarding past crimes and encouraged displaced Syrians to return, invest and contribute to the nation's rebuilding efforts, with a focus on unity and justice. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has stated that the situation in Syria remains volatile, with the EU closely monitoring developments. Speaking alongside Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, von der Leyen emphasized that while the collapse of Assad's regime offers hope for the Syrian people, security risks persist. She stressed the importance of protecting Syria's unity and minorities, reaffirmed Europe's commitment to rebuilding, and emphasized the need for safe and voluntary refuge returns.
To resuming discussions on a modernized customs union. We both have a lot to gain here. However, as we discussed, progress will require stronger efforts.
The French flag has been raised over France's embassy in Damascus, marking its reopening after 12 years. Reports suggest a French delegation will visit Syria, holding meetings with Hayat Tahrir al-Sham officials. The international community is closely monitoring whether Syria's new leaders can stabilize the country and prevent further violence.